Hello, everybody, and welcome to North 100, a set review podcast. I'm Serge. Joining me, I have a Jer.
Hello.
An Alex.
No anecdote.
And a Wheeler.
The end is near.
Reminder that North 100 is brought to you by you, their support over at the Patreon, over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Now, this is part 2 of our Throne of Eldraine set review, and we've got quite a few cards to get through, so I thought we'd just jump right into it. So let's do this. Let's start off with Bone Crusher Giant. This is a 3-mana 4/3 giant. Whenever Bone Crusher Giant becomes the target of a spell, deal 2 damage to that spell's controller. Or you can send it on an adventure. 1 in a red, instant, damage can't be prevented this turn, and deal 2 damage to any target. This is open. Let's just talk about this right away. How many decks is this going into?
All.
If they have red, they will play it.
Is it?
MU okay.
Yeah, I mean, my voice was gargly, but I think it summarizes my disdain for this card.
Why disdain?
Too good.
It's so good.
It's very
Too
good.
good.
It's got Ancient 2 mana. It's got a
Ancient
shock on it that gets
2
around
mana.
True Name Nemesis and Protection. I played this in Jeskai midrange yesterday as kind of like having a laugh, and it was absurd in that deck. And I was just like, well, all right, this card's just probably going into every red deck.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting with counter spells because the triggered ability will target regardless of whether you counter the spell or not. So
Wait,
if they
what?
target it, then you counter it.
If it's
Then
in play.
they still take 2.
Because if they try and remove
It's
it and you
good
counter
with
the removal
counter
spell.
spells. So
Yeah.
like it's in play, they try to kill it, you counter their spell, it still shocks them.
Yeah, we're not talking about it being on the stack.
No.
Yeah. All right, next up we have Claim the Firstborn. 1 red mana for a sorcery. Gain control of target creature with CMC 3 or less until end of turn. Untap it, and it gains haste. Wheeler, what do you think?
I think this card is absurdly good. I'm more high on this than some of the local red players have been, who all still agree this card is quite good. The amount of damage that this card creates is kind of hard to really pinpoint. But you are, not only are you creating a new source of damage on your side, which is important, you are removing a blocker on their side, which could also be preventing one of your other dorky creatures from attacking. So like say you take a Courser of Crufix, which is be nullifying your 2 Savannah Lions. Instead of having 0 damage that turn, because why would you want to just throw your cards under the bus against a Courser unless you have a shock or whatnot? You take their Courser, you smash for 6. That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
For 1 mana.
For 1 mana.
Card's nuts.
Now, what about the opportunity cost of playing this against control or something that might not have any targets?
It's not great. in that
Snapcaster,
match, but
Jace.
yeah. Control has more low drop creatures now than ever before. So like even taking
Jared
like a
nods.
Thing in the Ice or like a Baral, again, like removing their blocker is equally as important.
Sure. All right, next up, Embereth Shieldbreaker is a 2-mana 2/1 human knight for 1 in a red, but it can also be sent on an adventure for a single red sorcery, destroy target artifact. Alex, what do you think?
Let me smash. This is one of a series of like destroy artifact creatures. This one seems pretty good to me, like because you get what is it, smelt? It's not an instant, but it's like the effect of smelt, and then a 2/1. Because I would compare this, I suppose, favorably to
Torch Fiend.
Manic Vandal,
Manic Vandal. That's the one.
Reckless Reveler.
I mean, there's a million of them, and like they all are a little bit different, but also do kind of the same thing.
What's the one that has ember in the word that you can evoke?
Ingot Chewer.
Ingot Chewer, not ember, ingot. So Ingot
Ingot
Chewer,
is really cool, but I don't think it sees play in our format.
5
Just
drop.
vintage.
Yeah, 5
Yeah.
drops.
yeah.
Vintage, where
Now
it can't
Ingot
be-
Chewer saw a lot of play in Vintage because it gets around Chalice of the Void.
and
Chalice, Mental Misstep.
Yeah.
Force of Will.
Flusterstorm
Doesn't get around
effects.
Force of Will, but how much do we care about the difference, say, Ingot Chewer compared to our new Shield Breaker here?
You're gonna get to cast Shieldbreaker for a start.
That's like
For our format, Shieldbreaker is way better.
All right.
Oh yeah, actually Shieldbreaker is probably gonna replace Ingot.
One of the best red players in our format once told me, sometimes you just play Stormblood Berserker on 2 with no damage. Just a 2-mana 1/1 menace. Because sometimes you just need a threat.
Yeah.
That's what this card can be.
Cool.
I like it.
All right, next up, Fires of Invention is a 4-mana enchantment. You can only cast spells during your turn, and you can only cast no more than 2 spells each turn. And you may cast spells with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control without paying their mana cost. This is a weird card. This is a weird card. Can anybody think of a way to break it?
I immediately want to play Time Walks with it, but I don't know if that's good or not.
Like all the 7-mana Time Walks? I mean, the tricky thing in this deck is, again, the land clause, right? You can only cast spells with converted mana cost equal to lands. Do you want to play it in a ramp deck? What about, I was playing Standard on Arena the other day, and I ran into a 3-color Super Friends deck that had a bunch of lands with activated abilities. On your end step, use your lands to scry for cards or find whatever, set up your draws, and on your turn, just be like, okay, I'll play 5-mana Planeswalker, 6-mana Planeswalker, pass.
This would maybe be good with some kind of non-spell mana sink, because it's like you're casting the spells anyway, but you still have mana up, but you can't use it to cast spells.
Yeah.
So if you could dump this into, I don't know,
Urza.
Or something like that. Just like have an ability to
I
utilize.
guess maybe not Urza makes you cast the spell.
Like Urza and Golos, like those kind of abilities, you have to cast the
Right.
spell.
Yeah, right. No good.
Honestly, the inclusion for this, or at least why I thought we should cover it, is because this card is everywhere in Standard. It's really good. It's popping up even in Modern, like very fringely in some degen decks. But like, we're just trying to beat the comments because I don't think this card's good.
Oh, interesting.
The instance, the sorcery speed, or like only during your turn restriction, is a lot. And like, again, yeah, you need all these lands to do these cool things. And typically the Time Walk decks also want to do dinky little things with their cool things. They don't want to play a lot of lands.
There's a 4-mana red enchantment in the new Ravnica block that we kind of slept on. The
Experimental Frenzy.
The coffee one, Experimental Frenzy. Now, we originally were just like Snore on Experimental Frenzy, and it ended up seeing some play. And I don't want to say that we were wrong on it, but it saw a little bit more play than the 0 we forecasted.
I played that card a bit. It was much better than I first thought it would be.
Yeah, we fixated on any card that gives you the ability to destroy it right on it probably isn't great. Do we think we're sleeping on Fires of Invention again?
No.
I mean, 2 free Planeswalkers a turn?
Frenzy got a lot better when you two were playing it with Fast Bond and Courser of Krufix and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty sick. But I just
Sylvan
don't.
Library.
There's too much of a restriction on this.
Okay.
I think.
All right. Next up, we have Iron Craig Pyromancer, which is
There we go.
is a 3-mana 0/4 human wizard for 2 and a red. Ancient Doom mana. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, it deals 3 damage to any target. Jer, what do you think?
I think this card's really good. The body's exceptional. Having 4 toughness means it's quite likely to stick around. And in many decks, drawing your second card each turn is not difficult. And it doesn't say your turn, so if you cast a draw 2 on their turn, it gets a trigger as well.
I was gonna say this, like the floor on this. Well, not the floor, but yeah, all your cantrips are now like come with free lightning bolt.
Yeah,
not all of them, but your first one.
Many of the planeswalkers as well make it really easy to activate this ability, like Dak Faden, the Royal Scions, any Jace ever printed, all activate.
So, Blue Moon? What else are we playing this in?
Any blue-red deck really
Okay.
could feasibly play it.
Cool. Next up, we have Rimrock Knight. 2 mana, 3/1 for 1 and a red. Can't block, but for a single red instant adventure, target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. How do we feel about this pump spell? Do we like the flexibility that the adventure offers over the downside of having to play a 3/1 for 2?
I don't think playing a 3/1 for 2 in red is that big a downside.
Again, sometimes you just need a threat, and the fact that you can, like for red, if you're able to get 2 things out of your single card, that's huge. And like, this is a pump spell that I wouldn't feel super bad having to use to, say, trade with a Courser of Krufix, because I know on the backside I'm going to get a 3/1 out of it.
Yeah, this seems like it would be good in the Blitz deck.
I was going to say, do we like this in the pump deck? Even like the prowess pump deck, muscle wizard style thing. I mean, a dwarf knight is neither a muscle nor a wizard.
Because it's a pump spell that is actually an instant, excuse me, like a spell, so you do get those triggers off of it. As opposed to stuff like Blood Rush, where you would get a pump but not a spell trigger.
I don't know. It's like the thing that deck doesn't need really at this point. We don't need more pump spells.
But this is a pump spell and a creature.
Unless they're really, really good pump spells.
Yeah, like I'll take more scale ups, but I don't think we need more +2/+0. The creature on this isn't very relevant because, again, another thing that deck doesn't need is more creatures. Well, we can use
really,
better.
really good
yeah,
creatures.
like we'll upgrade some of our creatures, but this is not an upgrade.
So this is RDW-ish?
Yeah,
I think so.
Red green, I think, is where this card will really excel.
Nice. All right. Next up, Robber of the Rich. This card's exciting. It's got a lot of words on it. 2 mana, 2/2 human archer rogue for 1 and a red. It has reach for some reason and haste. And whenever Robber of the Rich attacks, if defending player has more cards in hand than you do, exile the top card of their library. During any turn you attacked with a rogue, you may cast that card and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast it. Alex, you made a lot of facial expressions. What do you think?
What the heck?
I know, I just read you a short story.
Why does it have reach?
It's an archer.
It's Robin Hood.
It's like rubbing. It's running on the roof or something like that. So it has the ability
It's an
to.
archer. You get to shoot
Understood.
up.
Pew pew. I give you that. Why does it have reach?
Okay, like
No,
it's an archer, not like an archery vid on YouTube archer. Like it's a fantasy archer where they can just like snipe anything anywhere and their arrows loop.
And like archers in Magic have reach. That's just like
Like spiders.
thing.
yeah.
But not giants.
Sorry. This card seems pretty wild. They've started printing a tiny handful of like swipe your opponent's stuff cards, and here's another one. It's like a 2/2 with haste and for some reason reach. That is like kind of drawing you cards. Also being able to trigger it off of like another rogue is pretty cool.
Just in case
It
it
also
dies.
triggers off attack, not on damage. So
That's
if you're in it,
that's such a big
if you're in
deal.
a really tight spot, you can attack and
Maybe spin the dice and get a
potentially
removal
get
spell.
the thing you,
Yeah.
you need. Like,
So RDW probably likes this. Do you want this in a larger, maybe medium red deck that has more mana to spend to cast your opponent's threats? Jared's nodding. Wheeler?
it seems
don't-
good to me. But.
I don't mind it for medium red, just because like the deck has played some real bad cards, and like, but you will dump your hand quicker than most opponents, so that's appealing. And having anything with haste, right? You'll take
All right.
and reach.
and reach.
And it's just really, really good off a mock straw. Like, it's
Oh, yeah.
insane.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I'm just looking forward to Eater of the Rich. Am I right, fellow?
get your forks.
Next up, Scorching Dragonfire is a 2 mana instant for 1 and a red. Deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Does not go to the dome. And if that creature or planeswalker would die, exile it instead. Jer.
They keep making these 2 mana, 3 damage, but can't go upstairs burn spells better and better. And I think this one's actually pretty close. It has the exile clause, and it also hits planeswalkers.
And it's an
gives
instant.
it,
So
yeah, it gives it like ticks just about every box. So if you're not a very aggressive deck, I could see playing this over like Searing Spear or Lightning Strike maybe, and diversifying, or in addition to.
Cool. Now we have Slaying Fire. 3 mana instant, deal 3 damage to any target for 2 and a red, or Adamant, if at least 3 red mana was spent to cast this, deal 4 damage. So we have another 3 mana, 4 damage instant spell. Wheeler.
It's a 3 mana, 4 damage instant spell. I love these more than I probably should.
it's Flame Javelin.
well,
This is the 4th one now, or the 3rd?
Fourth, right?
Yeah,
Like
Ristic Lightning, Flame Javelin, Exquisite Firecraft.
And we can kind of count
Brimstone Volley is 5.
Are we just
4?
not going to
All right,
mention
but
Char?
this is Char you. I like it.
Ooh,
All right.
all right.
So this is better than Flame Javelin because Trips Red is pretty easy for a mono red deck. But also sometimes you got Mutavault and Mishra's Factory,
Yep.
and then you're sitting with this Flame Javelin. You're like, oh,
I guess I'll never cast
wish
this.
I could cast this.
So this is maybe like going to be better in red X as well as mono red?
It's like in the situations where you need to cast the spell, obviously you'd want to cast the spell, and you're probably fine with 3 damage, but then when you can, sit on it to go upstairs.
Or kill a Courser of Grufix.
Kill a Courser of Grufix.
Just kill it.
It'll get the job done.
Yeah, this seems sweet in red-green.
All right, and our final red card we're going to talk about today is Thrill of Possibility. 2 mana instant for 1 and a red, and as an additional cost, discard a card. You may draw 2. Wheeler.
It's like my evolution as a player is in the past. I definitely would be like, so if I discard the card and they counter it, I'm just down a card. This sucks. To now I'm like, oh yeah, counter my spell. I've already put my threat in the graveyard. Let's go. Yeah, it's great. If you're a reanimation style deck or any deck that's looking to put stuff in the graveyard, the discard on cast is super relevant. Instant speed, super relevant. And then obviously drawing 2 cards, not bad.
Like, this is strictly better than Tormenting Voice.
Power creep is real.
I am holding back a meme, but yes, it is better than Tormenting Voice.
We got it correct, and
Yep.
it is in fact actually strictly better than, not just.
You know what the amazing part about
What
an
about
instant
Dispel?
is, Alex? Sometimes you can cast an instant as a sorcery. You have all that flexibility.
Ban charm. Dispel. I mean, you probably could. This might even be fine in blue decks too.
So here's an interesting
value.
question. Constructed right now is all about that Arc-like Phoenix. We have enough of these effects. Is there a style of deck like that in our format?
Yeah, just the
Blue-red.
Blitz, like blue-red spells deck. I played it. I top 8 at a Staples event with it.
Cool.
Blue-red
Last
Blintz.
year.
All right, let's move to green. And the first green card we're talking about today is the Great Henge.
No.
I'll scroll up.
Scroll up.
Beanstalk Giant is a 7 mana XX for 6 and a green. Has power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control, and it can also go on an adventure. This is the second giant we're sending on an adventure here. 2 and a green. Fertile Footsteps is a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield. Doesn't say tapped, and then shuffle your library. What do you think, friends?
Ho, ho, ho.
Green giant.
It's a ramp spell. It's a giant moron.
So typically in lands, a
know.
3 mana ramp spell either gets you 2 lands or 1 into play and 1 into your hand. So as far as 3 mana ramp spells go, this is not great.
Scapeshift decks in the past have like a local Scapeshift degenerate played, what is it, Spring to Mind, the Amonkhet
That
split
one's an
card.
instant though. Oh wait. Oh,
No.
Spring to Mind. I'm thinking of the instant one.
Oh, the one that finds it's
Sure.
the exact same on the front. The find a land into play untapped, and then the flip side was pay 6, draw 2 cards, which I believe was instant speed.
Yeah.
But maybe playing a 7 mana 7/7 attached to this ramp spell is also fine. Like sometimes just playing a big donkey will get it done.
Yeah.
Especially in a deck that
It doesn't
like
even have trample though.
yeah, but Scapeshift can like again kill a lot of small creatures.
So we're talking about this specifically in Scape Shifts. I wouldn't play this in lands.
No, absolutely not.
I don't know if this is replacing Wood Elves in decks that care about that.
Are you kidding me?
But that's what we're saying, right? Like it's a 3 mana that gets it's a 3 mana 1/1 that gets you a land. The body is relevant, but when you're trying to compare again 3 mana ramp spells in the format, does our friendly giant replace anything?
Surgeon Jägermeister.
Yes.
Wood Elves gets and Forest of any kind.
Yeah, again, it's
Into play
very, very,
untapped.
very good.
I don't think comparing this to other 3 mana ramp spells that come with something attached immediately is going to lead to a fruitful comparison. You need again, you play this as a ramp spell because you're a deck that wants to ramp. That says then later in the game, if you draw this card, you get a big donkey. Or if you ramp into nothing, which some of these decks have a tendency of doing, or if you're, say, a Scapeshift deck where you ramp and then you need to use your, card tutors or draw spells or whatnot to find resources to challenge the board, prevent yourself from dying. Like, you're a deck that, I'm no expert in the archetype, but you're a deck with counter spells, draw spells, ramp, removal, big creatures, combo kill cards. That's a lot of different card types in one. And so, like, maybe just having this thing that lets you ramp early, which is very important to get to that scape shift kill line, and then be like, here's my donkey, is good enough.
I almost like this in Curb as well for a similar reason. Just because, and the land coming into play and the fact that you can get basic island is important for Curb as well. And just having like incidental win cons is really good for Curb, because one thing you really want to do is to get your engine going, you need to have very few actual cards that win the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, for context,
Curb is Curb Your Enthusiasm, the Time Walks.
Blue-green Time Walks.
Blue-green Time Walks.
Sorry to cut you off
Yeah,
there.
no worries.
Last question, medium green.
No.
Not medium enough?
We are going to get to some real good medium green
All right,
cards.
then-
I don't think, yeah.
Then let's move on to the card I thought was the first, but I was wrong, the Great Henge. 9 mana legendary artifact, but costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power amongst creatures you control, so kind of like Galta, but different. Tap, add green, and gain 2 life. And whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and draw a card.
Good gravy.
Jer.
So this is an insane engine card. It's incredibly powerful. I don't think there's any decks apart from maybe medium green. Ben can speak to that in a minute. That immediately jump out where it's like, oh, this is insane. Play this. But I think it's actually fine to play in like mid-range decks. Like I'd play this in like green monsters decks. Double green is really easy to hit, and you're often playing huge creatures in those style of decks. You're playing enough creatures to get the trigger. And
I was gonna say, Jared, what's your like expected discount on this? Like 3, 4?
I think 4. If you're casting this for 5, I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, you cast it for 5 and immediately rebate green, which is pretty cool.
So my worry with a card like this is if you're getting a big discount, you're already ahead.
Not necessarily.
Is a good way to look at this. So maybe an ideal curve, you're like turn 1 Elf, maybe turn 3 Thrun, turn 4 Henge.
We can workshop this. We can tap a workshop to help cast this. And we can play Carapace Forger, a green card that cares about artifacts. We could play Azuri's Brigade, which is a green creature that cares about artifacts.
You can also just play good cards like Ronus.
We're playing a workshop aggressive deck. We're not in it for good cards. But we can Juggernaut into this. I think I'm not kidding. Like you can maybe try this in like a mid-range deck, but I'm not super.
I'm here with you.
I'm not super into playing this for medium green at least.
So wait, medium bots?
Yeah, well, you just like blue-green battle
Forest
bots.
bots.
Why not blue-green? Why not blue-green battle bots?
All right, interesting.
Having this card in play is absurd.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah.
You could also play it in a counters deck.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Interesting.
Like this would be insane to tinker into.
It's probably better than Staff of Nin.
It's probably better. You know what? There's just a lot of bad cards that we tinker into, and this is probably better than some of them.
All right. Well, what do we got next?
Next up, we have the Love-Struck Beast. Oh, little friend. 3 mana 5/5 Beast Noble, but it cannot attack unless you control a 1/1. Or, for a single green Heart's Desire as a sorcery, you may create a 1/1 white human creature token. Wheeler.
Ancient Tomb mana.
You have got to sell me on this card.
Okay,
'Cause
so
I looked at it and I was like,
picture this.
Okay.
You're a green deck. You play a dork on turn 1, and then you play a 5/5 on turn 2. Or, picture this. You're a green deck. You make a 1/1 on turn 1, and then you play your Ancient Tomb, or your City of Traders, or whatever the acceleration you're using, and then you cast this on turn 2.
you know why I overlooked this card? Because I was like, oh, 5/5 for 3. I want to play this in black mold. And it's like, it's not good in black mold because all your 1-drops have 2 power.
Really good with Bitter Blossom.
Yeah. No, the tricky thing with the line you're talking about, there's a lot of the top tier elves in our format aren't 1/1s. Noble Hierarch, Birds of Paradise, and Planeswalker. Yeah, Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah.
Right? And unless you're getting pretty deep on the less good elves, some of which don't even tap for black or for green, or
But Surge,
but again,
it comes with its own 1/1.
Like if I'm playing if I'm paying 4 mana to make a 1/1 and a 5/5, I'm pretty all right with that.
Yeah,
and there
6
are
power for
ways
4.
to build a 1/1 base with the deck down the line that doesn't necessarily feel bad. Like even if I have to play like a Walking Ballista on 1, go to combat, then
Swing for
put
5.
counters
Yeah,
on and
okay.
kill their blockers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, lots
kinda
of
cool.
1/1 utility creatures that are underplayed, like Weathered Wayfarer. Grim Lavamancer hasn't been
Okay.
seeing much play.
Yeah, no.
So, like,
Tale as old as time.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we have Once Upon a Time. This is actually a really cool card. So 2 mana instant for 1 and a green. If this is the first spell you've cast this game, you may cast it for free. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land from amongst them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order.
random order.
In a random order.
Yeah, any order.
Yeah, any order. Any
What do you-
random order.
What do you think?
This is really cool.
It's really cool. It's, oops,
What do I play?
apologies
this
to
in?
headphone users. I just bought my microphone. Does it do enough in a 100-card singleton? Obviously, in Constructed, this is very good. I've seen it getting played as 4 of in a lot of standard decks right now, especially with all the adventure cards that are running about.
Yeah.
In Modern and Legacy as well.
Yeah, but in a 100-card singleton, what are the chances that this is going to be your first free card in
I don't
games?
think you think about that. I think you assess this as like a green
Impulse and green?
that might just be free.
Peer through depths, right? It's kind of like a better peer through depth. Well, not a better. It's a green peer through depth.
Sure.
If this card was just found creatures or lands, I think it would be awful. But
Yes.
finding both,
If it binned the cards, I think it would be.
I would
Oh, if it
be
was
like,
mulch?
in our format.
Yeah.
But
if it binned the cards, there would be fire behind my feet going to get this
yeah,
card.
like the reason it's seeing a lot of play in Standard and Modern is because you can alter in a 4 of 60 card format. You can alter your mana base to playing this, assuming you're going to be able to find lands some percentage of the time,
Jeez.
and you can't do that in 100 card singleton. So I think a lot of its power is lessened.
Is it good enough just to play in a green deck that wants to dig for the right creature or land?
But you're only looking at 5 cards. Like, are you going to find the right creature or land in a 100 card singleton? Only looking at 5 cards.
All right. Anybody have positive thoughts on this, or is
I don't want to play this in something like Hoof, but I could maybe see it find a home in like a lands deck, like the
feel like-
lands mid-range decks. Maybe like instant speed is also huge.
I'm not playing this over Sylvan Scrying.
No, of course not. But it's not. Again, it's not a Sylvan Scrying. It's like a brand new card for these green decks.
Sort of like a Grizzly Salvage, I suppose. That doesn't
Ben,
bin the cards.
how would this be in Hermit Humans?
I don't think you would want it in that style of deck because the appeal, at least from someone that has died to this deck, is that your game plan can pivot like that, and then you are like, oh, I'm dead. Like you're like, I have to stop myself from dying this way, and then a new way pops up, and you're like, oh, I'm dead that way. And I don't think you need this kind of card for that.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to Questing Beast. 4 mana, 4/4 legendary beast for 2 and a green. Has the following keywords: Vigilance, Death Touch, Haste. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Combat damage that would be dealt by creatures you control can't be prevented. And when it deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to a planeswalker they control as well. Alex.
What were they smoking?
Wheeler.
You guys mind if I smoke in here?
What is this?
Okay, so
hates planeswalkers.
there's a lot of text on this card.
Can be countered.
And it might just,
Thank
yes,
God.
it can be countered. It can get just killed. Let's get that out of the way. However, can I introduce you to Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, Ancient Tomb, Mana, the fast
Never
mana,
heard of it.
all over
What
the
a novel
board.
concept. Why
Poop
don't we
out
ever talk about this?
Just brum. Like there's so many key. So okay, there's
And it's
been
green.
This
there are
smashes straight
so
through
many
True Name.
keywords on this card that green loves to see because what the keywords get around are things that green hates to see. One of the biggest downsides for medium green compared to like medium red is that you don't always have a big dumb dragon to go over, so you can just get chump blocked. But this prevents that, or rather stops it from being prevented. That's the other part of this ability. This card has so much text on it, all of it relevant, reasonable body, and it doesn't have triple green pips.
It's 6 upsides.
Yep. All right, next up, Sir Farron the Henge Hammer. 2/2 for 2, green, legendary human knight. When it attacks, another target attacking creature gets +X/+X, where X is its power. Alex, what do you think of this card?
It's weird and interesting.
Does it go in green mold?
I wouldn't be first picking this, like, because green pip, unless it's like totally nuts. Like, it's comparing to
Strangler.
yeah, Stranglergeist. It has to be like really, really crazy. This represents the potential for a decent amount of power, but like, what deck wants to hit green and then like aggress?
Yeah.
Mono green.
Well, okay, mono green
Mono-green
sure.
Aspect of the Hydra on this
Oh,
boy,
baby.
Berserk. They're dead.
Yeah, like, yeah,
That feels good.
mono green aggro. I think.
I mean,
throw
give
the
it
right in.
Rancor and you're laughing.
I kind of wish the knight was the bear.
Ha! Who says it
That's fair.
isn't?
Yeah.
Well, the card
It's a
says
human
human knight,
Oh.
but I kind of wish they
was the
made
bear
it
knight.
The
Yeah,
bear.
that would
that's
have been
fair.
great.
All right, next up, Wildborn Preserver. Sorry, I looked at it the other way around. 2 mana, 2/2, elf archer with flash and reach, because archers have reach. Whenever another non-human creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay X. If you do, put X +1/+1 counters onto it. I was going to throw it to Jer, but Alex looks pretty happy.
I love it. It's another counters card for the counters version of green mold, black mold. It's also got a bunch of keywords. It's got flash and reach, and you can just keep making this bigger, because like non-human, I feel like I'll have to do a look at the list, but I think that black mold is like predominantly non-humans. Like, there's lots of zombies.
upside there.
There's elves. There's other stuff. Like, I don't know.
So real quick, Jer, anything else you don't want to add to it?
Yeah, I think it's also really good in the flash deck, which I mentioned earlier.
All right, Wildwood Tracker is a 1/1 for 1 green elf warrior that attacks as a 2/2. Alex, does it get in anywhere?
Whenever it attacks or blocks.
Yeah, if you control another non-human creature, it gets +1/+1. So I shouldn't just say it's a 1/1 that attacks for 2, but
This is like another one of those almost 2/2s for a green. It's a warrior.
Play it.
just play
Just
it.
play it. Just,
Really?
Just turn it and attack him for 2.
All right.
You just play it and you turn it and you attack it for 2.
Okay.
And then finally, we have Yorvo, Lord of Garenbrig. It's the last green card we're going to talk about today. Green, so triple green prep gets you a 0/0 legendary giant noble, but it enters the battlefield with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control,
Another
put
green creature.
Another green creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Yorvo. If that creature's power is greater than Yorvo's, put another +1/+1 counter on Yorvo. Alex, counters deck?
Triple green is hard. Like,
Sorry.
this represents tons of counters. Maybe there is like a green slanted version, because this represents a ridiculous number of like counters.
Is this good enough just for mono green?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's a 4/4 for 3 that gets
Alright.
bigger.
Well,
Much bigger.
Much bigger. Like, way bigger.
Berserk, and they're dead.
I think you play this in the counters deck too. Like, if you're a black-green dedicated counters deck, Hardened Scales, Cobra, or not Cobra, Constrictor.
If you have the mana dorks,
Yeah.
then I think you do, but I don't think Alex's versions usually play
Right,
the mana
yeah.
dorks,
If you're like Golgari aggro, just like predominantly black with a bit of green, then no dice. You need to be mainly green with all the dorks and ideally a Mox Emerald. But then you're good.
all right, let's move on to gold cards. Now, I'm going to mispronounce this. Is it Chulane or Chulane? The Teller of Tales.
It's Choo Choo.
Choo Choo, Teller of Tales. 5 mana, 2 in a band, gets you a 2/4 legendary human druid with vigilance. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. For 3 and tap it, return target creature you control to its owner's hand. Jer.
Jeez.
So this card is insane in many of maybe my 2 favorite decks. It's insane in both Bant Blink and in Druids. It's a Druid. And it has Glimpse built in, and it's the best Glimpse effect they've ever put on anything. You get to draw a card and put a land, so if you're casting 1-drops, it's mana neutral.
Not even tapped.
Yeah, I know.
Not even tapped.
If you happen to, like, one of the worst things you can do, any Legacy Elves player will tell you this. They try to save their land drop as long as possible so they can try to play Gaia's Cradle. And one of the worst feelings is if you're going off on a Glimpse turn and drawing Gaia's Cradle. Well, now it's just upside. You're like, play my land, put this Cradle into play later. Like,
good gravy.
Cool.
Yeah, this card's absurd, and it's not that much mana. Conveniently in Eldritch Evolution Neoform colors.
Ooh. All right, next up we have Dance of the Manse.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what they called it.
X white blue sorcery. Return up to X target artifact and or non-aura enchantment cards, each with CMC cost X or less, from your graveyard to the battlefield. And if X is 6 or more, those permanents are also 4/4s in addition to their other types. Now, this is so weird. It's not Replenish, which is a 4 mana one for enchantments. I mean, is this an egg card? I suppose is the question there. It's so weird because if you cast it for 0, it does nothing, and you want to bring back, right? Like,
I'm gonna play this for 6 months and then cut it when a better card comes along. Like, it's fine, but eggs has gotten to the point where you cut open the vaults, and you just don't really need these effects as much. Because, like, all your cards suck. And you don't mind if they die or if they go away. In fact, you're going to actively try to kill them. And if you bring them back, that's gravy. But this, like, it's more difficult to loop with this than, say, Second Sunrise or Face Reward. The blue-white mana cost isn't the worst. And X, like...
This is just so expensive, right?
Yeah, it's expensive. It's an effect that the deck wants, but not like this, not for that mana cost, and frankly doesn't really need, you know?
I don't even know if you're playing this in Enchantress.
Enchantress, maybe? I don't know. Like, you have Sarasanct. Like, Enchantress is a slower deck. And you have less effects like that. So maybe you will want this, but again, you have Replenish.
Yeah. All right, next up, Deathless Knight. This is a 4 mana 4/2 for 4 Golgari hybrid mana. Wow, I really struggled there. Gets you a Skeleton Knight, has haste, and when you gain life for the first time each turn, return it from the graveyard to your hand. Alex, what do you think of this card?
Beep, beep. I want to try him because it has less toughness than Vengevine. It doesn't go right back into play like Vengevine, but the opportunity cost for getting it back is a lot easier than...
casting
two creatures. Like, any of your lifelink creatures will get this back. Any sort of incidental life gain spells, like
even your GT, right?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, if you have GT, who cares? I'll temper my expectations because it is like quadruple pip, but I'll try it.
Cool. Next up, Drown in the Loch. This is a 2 mana instant for a blue and a black. Choose one. Counter target spell with convert a mana cost less than or equal to the number of cards in a controller's graveyard, or destroy target creature with a convert a mana cost less than or equal to the number of cards in its controller's graveyard. I'm going to throw it to Jer. What do you think of this card? Does it do enough?
Like the other card we talked about, which matters on cards in its controller's graveyard, the big draw spell. I just think you want more reliability out of your early counters and early removal spells. Like, against aggro, this isn't killing anything reliably enough. And again, once again, in the aggro matchup, you're not countering anything reliably enough. And you're really putting in your early interaction for the decks that go quickly. And I just don't think it's going to reliably help you enough in those matchups.
All right. Feyburrow Elder. is a 3-mana 0/0 for 1 and green and white. It is a tree folk druid. Has vigilance. Enters with a +1/+1 counter on it.
No.
Wait.
No, it gets
the static ability gets +1/+1 for each color amongst permanents you controls. Interesting. That's different. A lot of them have been entering with +1/+1 counters. I got thrown off. And tap for each color amongst permanents you control. Add 1 mana of that color. Wheeler.
Jeskai Ascendancy
Oh, heck.
is the thing you shouldn't be doing with this, but Lord knows I will be doing with this.
Yeah, how
I
you
think
get-
that this.
How are you going to get green in there?
Oh, you
It's
need the
green's-
green.
Your base green.
Your
Green.
base
Jeskai
green, and
Ascendancy,
you're looking
yeah.
to cast.
Have I ever told the story about the deck Ben gave me with Jeskai Ascendancy and literal 0 win conditions?
To quote Jeremy, this is the worst deck you've ever given me.
And he's
story.
given me some hot garbage.
No,
Good
and-
story.
Okay, but like aside from that, this card's probably fine. I'm gonna be trying it out in Hoof actually, the white green version of
Really?
Hoof. Well, it's just like a 3-drop dork. The mana cost isn't super restrictive. That will ramp you for 2, which
Yeah.
is always worth considering. And this is a bit better than stuff like Fyndhorn Elder and whatnot. I think we're kind of past the era of those cards being relevant. The other 3-mana
Rip
1/1.
Mantuko Elder.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Do you ever think you're going to get any more power squeezed out of this? Like, do you have any... I
It-
guess your
like,
Death
it-
Right Shaman makes it,
It
one bigger.
might get become a 3/3.
Goes right in 5-color zoo, let me tell you.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's for sure.
Activate Najila with just by tapping this.
Well, you're also, it's a 5/5 for 3 with vigilance. You're pretty happy about.
Or even in just like Abzan, right? Like you play this on 3, it's kind of messed up. You play this on 3.
Does Najila
or 2.
untap your creatures?
Yes, I believe so. You untap and get an extra combat phase.
Anyone?
And maybe lifelink.
Anyone?
I usually concede if my opponent
Infinite.
starts activating Najila.
Game.
No.
Card's good. It's I mean there's meme potential and there's like, oh yeah, I'll just play this creature that gets bigger, easier to cast and adds a buttload of mana.
All
It's
right.
also
I
great
like
in
it.
druids.
Also great in druids. Garrick, Cursed Huntsman. 6 mana, 5 loyalty. Garrick's back for 4 and a black and a green. 0. Create 2/2 black and green wolf creature tokens with, when it dies, put a loyalty counter on each Garrick you control. -3, destroy target creature and draw a card. And -6, you get an emblem with creatures you control, get +3/+3, and have trample. Jer.
All right, I love planeswalkers with this exact converted mana cost more than most people. Vraska being the obvious one, the only one. And I don't know. I just don't think this card is as good as Vraska. When you play a 6-mana planeswalker, you really need it to both close the game very, very quickly and be able to catch you up or have a lot of versatility and deal with any problem. And this just doesn't quite have that as same versatility. What up, Alex?
Rip. Are you sure about that? I have a hard time believing that a creature that, well, a planeswalker that zeros to make 2 bears every turn that still get loyalty for it and all your other Garricks is not going to close the game out fast.
Well, look
It's
at
just not as fast as Vraska.
yeah, or even 6-mana Liliana does like more interesting stuff when you on her plus ability to make zombies and stuff like that.
It's
The ability, yeah, and Garrick's inability to even get to his own ultimate without somehow having a way for him to kill his own wolves is kind of tricky.
the fact that you can't play this into 2 Savannah Lions is really embarrassing. Like, you can play it and tick up to make wolves to block, but I mean, like, if you need to kill a thing your opponent has. Like, let's say your opponent has a must-kill target, and,
A 2-power creature.
yeah.
A Falcon George.
Yes.
Fucking George!
Like, your opponent has cast and flashback Chatter of the Squirrel, and then you play this Garrick, and you have to kill their whatever, their Emrakul, and then you're left dying to these dorks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Grumgully the Generous. 3-mana, 3/3 legendary goblin ship. Are y'all right there?
Yeah, I'm fine. You can continue.
For 1, a red and a green, each other non-human creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Alex.
Have some shrooms. If this card was green-black, I would be super hype on it. But green-red is weird.
Now, it's worth mentioning this card has infinite potential in, like, Malira decks now.
As well as goblins.
And now Goblins has an infinite loop.
Yeah, Jundo
another
Goblins.
one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Couple
Yep.
of them.
This is the same thing as Malira, so any creature with Persist that dies would have a -1/-1, enters with a +1/+1, and they remove each other.
There's like a Jund counters deck as well. Like, the card's good. Like, don't get me wrong there. Like, it's good.
The art's great.
Shrooms.
Oh, I don't even care about the mushrooms. Look at the dude's
like-
beard.
He's like, he's hungry?
His blue skin.
Can you imagine if instead of mushrooms, those are Pringles? Now I'm hungry.
What?
What?
Whoa!
Beg your pardon?
All right, let's move on. Next up, we have Korvold, the Fey Cursed King.
This is the sexy dragon I was talking about.
All right, stupid sexy
Oh.
dragons here. 5 mana gets you a 4/4 flying legendary dragon noble for 2 and a Jund. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, sacrifice another permanent. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on the dragon and draw a card. Wheeler.
Okay, so you know that Scooby-Doo meme where they're like, let's see who this really is, and they pull off the mask and something else? Well, first it's a Gitrog monster, and then it's a Korvold. Thanks for listening. Have a good one, everyone. I like this card in the well-known archetype, Yawgmoth's Jacuzzi, aka Jacuzzi on commission.
Sorry, what?
Basically a squandered resources fast bond kind of storm deck. As the premier lands pilot of the format, this card just is another kind of Gitrog monster that lets you combo kill people. Being a legend is also relevant in a deck that's looking to like Goryo's Vengeance back threats or reanimate threats. Basically, it's an engine. It's a legendary engine that is easy, relatively easy to cast, easy to reanimate, and sacrificing a permanent aside to sacrificing, this can be like, obviously you sack your lands to like a Zurin Orb or Squandered Resources, Reign of Filth, but also just like random, you have to sacrifice like a Black Lotus draws you a card, or you sacrifice a Lion's Eye Diamond draws you a card, whatever it may be. This might sound weird, but we have talked about this deck before. This deck is most certainly real, and I think this card, it getting bigger as well,
It's kinda
surprisingly
cool.
relevant.
Yeah.
I definitely killed somebody with like a 13/13 Korvold by sacking my entire board to it and just killing them.
I mean, that's how Arc-like Ravager ends games, right?
Arclight Ravager?
Arc-bound Ravager, pardon me.
There you go.
Premier
Got there.
workshop weenie player.
As the premier land player, it's okay if I get artifacts wrong every now and then.
Artifact.
All right, let's move on to Mara Leaf Pixie. This is a 2-mana 2/2 fairy for a blue and a green, has flying, and tap to add blue or green. Wheeler.
Great.
Jeskai sent it to you.
No. Well, actually, maybe. It adds blue, so I would include it in Jeskai Ascendancy. But it's a 2-mana 2/2 flyer in blue-green. We have seen tournament-winning decks that play Gaia Skyfolk, and the fact that we have a Gaia Skyfolk with a relevant creature type and a relevant ability.
Gaia Skyfolk has 2 relevant creature types.
Oh, Merfolk Elf, how could I forget? But like, you're a deck that could very well want to play Spell Stutter Sprite, and this card's great. It's fine. It's not exciting, but play it in those decks. Put a Curious Obsession on it.
It's a like a discipline play. Sometimes you just have to play role players as opposed to like
Yeah, you
flashy
would play
cards.
this card if it just was a 2-mana 2/2 flying in this kind of deck. And the fact that it's a fairy that can add blue mana as well, gravy.
Cool. And next up, everybody's favorite. It's Oko, the Thief of Crowns. Oh, stupid sexy Oko. So Oko is a legendary planeswalker that enters with 4 loyalty, +2, create food. Food being a new artifact token that for 2 and tap and sacrifice it gains you 3 life. +1 ability, target artifact or creature loses all abilities and becomes an elk. That's a 3/3. And -5, exchange control of target artifact or creature you control and target creature an opponent controls with power 3 or less.
Why is it a +1?
This is like the classic card where you won't try to be an ass by doing it, but you will play it against your opponent, you'll be killing them with it, and you'll be complaining about the card. You'll be like, this card is so stupid. Anyways, here, take this stupid food token. I'll get your creature. Yeah, Oko's just a mistake. Anyways, I'll make it so this doesn't have any
Attack you
abilities.
for 9 with these
Yeah,
tokens.
I can't believe they printed this. Anyways, land Dork into Oko on 2. What are you going to do? This card's real good.
It's surprisingly good, and you don't even need a lot of food payoff to make this good.
No, literally nothing.
So you
What's
know
up, Alex? Hold on.
Sorry, I'm only just now realizing how it synergizes with itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
turn the
Oh,
foods
yeah.
into elk.
Yeah.
So anybody that's played, not even Oko Standard, if you played this card in Standard or Modern now, you know how frustrating this card is. Or Legacy. This card like has been winning events in Legacy. You'll know that this is frustrating. But it also kind of has this like Nissa who shakes the world kind of aspect to it, where you think you've gotten rid of everything. You're like, oh, finally, no pressure. And then Oko's like, vroom, and just like, it will not stop. And it's 3 mana. Why do they keep printing 3 mana planeswalkers or 2 mana like Ren and 6 with that much loyalty?
Yeah.
How do you get rid of this?
Yeah.
Your heroes downfall it. You do that, but like, God,
6.
this card's a house.
All right.
Just leave
In
them
green.
practice.
Next up, we have Outlaw's Merriment. This is a 4-mana enchantment for 1, a red, and 2 white. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose 1 at random. You don't even get to pick. You get a red-white creature token with the following characteristics. A 3/1 with Trample and Haste. A 2/1 with Lifelink and Haste.
Cleric.
Sorry, a 3/1 Warrior with Trample and Haste. A 2/1 Cleric with Lifelink and Haste. Or a 1/2 Rogue with Haste, and when this creature enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to any target. This is going in prison.
Sorry, you explained this card and said you don't even get to pick, like it was an upside. Like, you choose 1 at random, so you don't even get to pick.
You ever sit there and look at a card with a bunch of choices? You're like, oh, all these options are good. I can't decide. Well, good news.
You don't have to.
No more slow play warnings for you.
Yeah, you just like, I don't even have to decide.
And to turn on Mystic Confluence, and I'll do that and that, I guess.
Yeah, I think this card's great. In the long history of red-white wildfire prison-style decks or even Mardu decks, I think this is a second copy of
Assembled
the Legion. Thank you. Obviously, they're very different, but this comes down a turn earlier, which is exciting. What's up, Wheeler?
I can't believe I'm agreeing with you now that I think about it. Like,
I actually think this card's really good.
Yeah, this being 4 mana is super relevant because you're a deck that has Ancient Tomb
Yeah.
and Mana Rocks. So getting this out on turn 2 or turn 3, not that unlikely.
Especially with all the new talismans giving you more colored mana.
Yeah, you can reliably cast these pips.
So the question here, I'm going to pose this to the room. You have an Academy Rector in play. You have your Tabernacle in
Assemble
play.
the Legion.
It dies. You have to choose Assemble the Legion or Outlaw's Merriment. Okay, we have 2 votes.
It's not close.
I think you get Assemble. Well, in that scenario, you get Assemble, or probably Overwhelming Splendor.
Well, actually, sorry. Let's remove Tabernacle because that's bad.
well,
You found some way to kill your own Academy Rector that isn't going to
Assemble.
punish you for making more tokens. All right, everyone's saying Assemble is better.
I don't know. I think you cut Assemble if you're including this card. Do you double up on this style of effect? Like Assemble is definitely
I mean,
more...
it depends what other win cons, like
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
planeswalker. Like they both go in the like thing. They're both essentially planeswalkers in that deck.
It's like that deck has a lot of 5s, right?
Yeah.
And like you're a deck that wants more 4s than anything. So maybe, I don't know, I look at Assemble. If my opponent casts Assemble the Legion, I'm usually like, whew, because it takes a while to get down.
I think this closes games faster. I think Outlaw's Merriment, depending on how you roll.
But speed ain't the name of the game, Serge. You're a Prism deck.
Yeah, I guess so. But sometimes
And Lifelink is super relevant.
very relevant, and that's why I was thinking about that one. And it does more. Anyways,
Well, 33.3% lifelink.
You could also run hot and just hit a bunch of these rogues and then
then you can just
wildfire
ping
and
off.
kaboom.
Can I just say, the thing that is nice about this is all 3 tokens have haste.
yeah. And look how happy everyone is in the card, just like your opponent when they're facing it down.
Yeah, so like when you untap, you will get something that can attack.
Yeah, as opposed to
1/1.
Assemble the Legion, which
Well,
you have to wait a turn for 1/1.
What?
I mean, this also you have to wait a turn, right?
At the beginning of your upkeep. Oh, you're all
You
correct.
also have to wait a turn, but you get, I mean, 1/1.
It's a turn earlier.
I think the speed that you sacrifice from the like 1 to 2 to 3, etc., is made up by this costing less and the abilities being infinitely more relevant.
Let's move on to the Royal Scions. Is another 3-mana planeswalker that enters with 5 loyalty for a 1, a blue, and a red. +1 ability, draw and then discard. +1 as well. Target creature gets +2/+0 and gains first strike and trample until end of turn. And -8, draw 4.
Okay, bye-bye.
When you do, deal damage to any target equal to the number of cards in your hand. Wheeler.
This costs 3.
Yep.
So I played this card for about 5.5 hours straight yesterday, and it was good at all times. It soaks up so much damage. I had this on an empty board against goblins, and I was like, oh, fingers crossed this eats like 5-6 damage, and it ate up like 10. And it just like the looting is okay. So every part of this card is relevant. First off, it's in the best 2-color combination in our format. It's a 3-mana walker that effectively starts at 6, which is why looting is good in every single instance you are a blue-red deck. You always want to loot. You always want to loot. The +1 for giving a creature first...
No cards in hand, +1 anyways.
The giving creature first strike and trample, again, if you have a dorky like Baral or whatever, haha, attack for 3. You got a Vendilion Clique, haha, attack for 5.
Crackling Drake, haha, has trample.
Yeah, like Seeker the way into this card is absurd.
Yeah.
And then the ultimate that is relevant that you like. We usually, again, we don't talk about ultimates on Planeswalkers because you shouldn't really base it off this. But with this one, you're going to get to it because it's like you're starting at 6 and -8 for an ability that the floor is you draw 4 cards and dome something out for 4. Like ultimates don't need to be you win the game, but if you're getting like a free opportunity plus doming something for 4, you're still probably winning the game.
Yeah.
Why does this card exist?
Why are they both +1s?
I don't know.
Just like Oko.
And trample.
All right, and let's talk
All
about...
right. I just want to talk about the second ability for a hot second.
Okay.
Take it out of the context of this card. Target creature gets +2/+0, gains first strike and trample until end of turn. What colors is that ability?
Red.
Green.
White.
Yep. All right, I'm done here.
All right, and the final gold card we're going to talk about today is Stormfist Crusader. This is a 2/2 for 2 human knight for a black and a red, has Menace, and at the beginning of your upkeep, each player loses a card. Each player draws a card and loses a life. Alex.
We're still trying to get Rakdos aggro to work. This is really weird. Like a 2/2 with Menace, human knight. Okay. Like, it draws you cards and nugs your opponent, but they draw cards and it nugs you.
But you get the card first.
You get the card.
True.
I'm in.
Yeah, I like this card.
No. They
Yeah.
At the beginning of your upkeep,
you both get the card at the same time.
Yeah, but you.
It's on your turn.
Sure.
Yeah, priority.
Okay.
Yes.
Technically,
Like
you're
we talk about the bad bobs because happen on like your end step. Like
sure. Oh,
Great
right.
Bob.
You
As
play.
bad bobs go, this is a very good
You've
bob.
got agency. You're the one that gets to use your card to its maximum effect and all the cards you draw. If your opponent draws a land, if you draw a land, oh.
yeah.
I do like that it has Menace.
But it's got Menace and it also triggers Bloodthirst and
Spectacle.
So, yeah.
All right. That's pretty cool.
Tidy little package.
All right, let's move on to artifacts. The first one, we have Embercleave. Embercleave is a 6-mana legendary artifact equipment, has flash, costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control. When it enters the battlefield, attach it to a creature you control. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, has double strike and trample, and equips for 3. Now, originally this wasn't on the list, and then I went to my pre-release on Sunday, and I went 5-0 with a very medium deck that had a very good copy of Embercleave, and now I'm a lot hotter on this card.
Oh, yeah.
This is also why this card is in colorless and not in red. Just getting that out of the way for everybody else that this is affecting.
So apparently Wheeler classifies this as a red card and not an artifact.
I mean, not just me.
It's a red card and not a colorless card.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyways, well, let's talk about relevant parts about this card.
Sure. I wonder if I would cut Grafted War Gear for Embercleave.
No.
No.
I cut a sword before I cut Grafted War Gear.
I'd cut Hovermere. Like, I don't know. You could replace one bad card with another card that's not great. But it's just so expensive.
It's interesting. I never paid more than 3 to cast this.
I never pay more than 3.
Well, it's interesting. It's so I had a bet with Allison.
Okay.
For a long time when Tassiger came out, and she's just like, hey, if I ever have to pay more than 2 to cast a Tassiger, I'll give you a loony.
You're welcome.
And it took her like, and she finally paid me after about 2 years. And she's like, and to be fair, I paid more than 2 for it because it was the 4th time I cast it in a game or something stupid like that, right?
Yeah, that answers the question. Why aren't you guys playing Tassiger in your Grixis lists?
Yeah. So Embercleave is very interesting, and I think it will have a home in the right deck. I think the fact that it enters play as a trick, you cast it for fairly cheap, and it equips for free the first time are all very, very relevant.
All right, hear me out.
Go ahead.
Goblins.
Ooh, okay.
Maybe.
Ooh! Now the
It's so good with Sledder.
Yeah, it's pretty alright. Okay.
It's so good with Sledder.
But like goblins can. Have you seen the cards Goblins plays? They're
Yeah,
all
you can
bad.
cut any of them.
Yeah,
It
goblins.
fits right in.
Goblins is just like, what garbage do I want to play today? And they reach into the dumpster and slap it out, and they're like, Lightning Crafter, get in.
So I
Yeah,
don't know.
so like,
I like this card.
I could actually see playing it in Goblins.
I'm gonna lose to this card. It's not good. Not good. It's not good, and I'm gonna lose to this card.
Yeah, I'm getting it. I might have to sleeve up BattleBots for the next Canadian Highlander League and throw this in and kill Wheeler over and over with it. All right, next up we have another card that's not going to cut Hovermere. It's a Ginger Brute.
What?
1 mana, 1/1 with haste. Food Golem for a generic mana. It can't be blocked unless the creature has haste. And for 2 and tap and sack it, gain 3 life. Wheeler.
Generic Food Golem was my nickname in high school, for starters. Secondly, you're not cutting... I think this card is really good.
This card's
unblockable.
This
Yeah,
card's
I think
really
it's
good.
unblockable.
This card's
Excellent.
really
and you're
good.
not cutting Hovermere for this card?
I'm going to play this card,
This-
but I don't know if it's Hovermere good.
You know what also holds equipment good?
I was gonna say, what was your argument for Hovermere? It's good at holding equipment.
Oh,
what holds
it's-
equipment better and is cheaper.
Oh, it's cheap, and it holds equipment
And it has
well.
haste.
Yo, like, and you can cash it in for life later when you're
You
like, well,
can eat him!
this card's not relevant anymore.
fair.
Time to win the race.
Next
I
up,
love
we have one of Jared's favorite cards, a card with the word egg in it.
Oh,
we
I
have
am so upset with you right
Golden
now.
Egg, 2 mana food artifact. When it enters the
this.
battlefield, draw a card, 1 and sack it, add a mana, 2 and sack it, gain 3 life.
All right, so I'm gonna play
Think
this
about
in
what you're
Bacon
doing.
Tribal because bacon and
Yeah,
egg.
yeah.
What you're
All right,
doing.
Ben, talk about it.
Okay, so this is actually just like the best egg they've ever printed. Not because, well, the best 2-mana egg. Let's be
I
clear.
was going to say, aren't free eggs better than the 2 mana egg?
Yes, but not the. As far as 2-mana eggs go, this is the best one.
Okay.
It draws a card when it ETBs, great. Filters for a mana, also great, and puts it into the bin. And then you can also just gain life with it, meaning that there's a variety of ways that you can loop, kill, or just survive against your opponent. Because the downside to eggs is occasionally you die. And if you can get rid of... If you can remove the part of the eggs deck where you lose, you will win. You know what I'm saying?
Wise words.
Sometimes you just need a little more time. That's all I'm saying.
All right, fair
but
enough.
like, yeah, filter.
Do you offer coaching?
Yep.
That's how you win.
$50 an hour.
If
Yeah.
you don't lose, you'll win.
Big brain. Yeah, this is the best egg. Play it in eggs.
Would you play it
Please.
in Academy?
Normal, actual, factual academy? No, probably not.
All right,
But
it's worth
egg-
seeing if
Egg
people
Academy?
like cantrip
Egg
Egg Academy.
All right.
Next up, we have the Midnight Clock. Now, we asked for a bunch of comments, and this is probably the most asked for card in terms of feedback. People are like, what about Midnight Clock? What about Midnight Clock? So it's a 3-mana artifact for 2 and a blue. Tap and add a blue. 2 and a blue, put an hour counter on it. At the beginning of each upkeep, put an hour counter on it. And finally, when the 12th hour cometh, shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library, draw 7 cards, and exile the Midnight Clock. Jer, what do you think of this card?
I just think it's a little slow.
You only
So
need
you
12 counters.
You either need 6 turns or 36 mana or some combination of the two.
I don't play these kind of decks, but
I like the.
seems like a really bad draw 7.
I love the
great.
breakdown of 6 turns or 36 manas. It's kind of hard.
When you put it in those terms, it's like I just don't really see where you want it.
Here's a thing that comes up a lot with people pitching cards for Academy is that what does Academy want? You want mana rocks, ideally ones that add blue, which this is, and you want draw 7s.
Which is also
which is also good. And ideally a draw 7 that's an artifact that you can tutor for. And so this checks off all the boxes. So you would think you want this card, but it's not a good mana rock because it costs 3, doesn't add 2 mana. And it doesn't add, or like a variety of mana. Like it's not Chromatic Lantern or Pristine Talisman that can go infinite.
Coalition Relic.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that. It's not a good draw 7 because it costs, again,
36
a buttload of mana. And like if you have infinite mana, like we are past the days of having infinite mana and conceding. Like we just have so many things we can do now. And then like tutorable ways of popping off, we have Mystic Forge.
Now, Paradox Academy, because in that case, you are adding more mana, you're untapping it, there's the possibility to do fun things with it.
Surely there's better places.
No. It's just it's just like, again, it's a little bit of everything, but like you don't need that.
Sure.
Paradox and Academy decks like this are at the point where if you don't need a card, you don't play a card.
Yeah, we're bringing the bouncer back. Like it needs to be at least an 8.5, and
It's good, but not good enough.
Yeah.
All right, that's fair. All right, next up, we have another card that's not replacing Hovermere. The Shambling Suit. This is a 3 mana construct for X and 3. Power and toughness equal to number of artifacts
Just
and
power.
or power equal to the number of artifacts and or enchantments you control. Pardon me. Alex, what do you think about this in like battle bots or one of the workshop Winnie aggressive decks?
The ceiling is very high. The floor is, well, I mean, like, I feel like your floor is going to be like maybe a 2/3, more likely a 3/3. Do you want to pay 3 mana for that?
Yes.
Workshop.
I'm gonna cast this off workshop every day. It only in workshop decks and no other deck.
But you could play it in Enchantress.
Okay, so but just is this better than Juggernaut?
I would play both.
Well, it's different, right? Because this is workshop mana.
It's better.
I don't have a hand thing for workshop.
Okay.
Yeah.
I buy that.
No, I can see that because, there's a chance this gets to be a 5/3 if you're playing all your artifact lands and you're ramping out other stuff and just like weird incidental artifacts that get up. Oh,
It's
wow.
because
would
you
I
are a
cut
density
Juggernaut?
deck.
Yeah.
You are like leaning hard into spamming the board with lots of trinkets.
I guess when you played the workshop deck, you were playing like a red-white, more equipment deck than just a spam deck, eh?
I mean, there's lots of ways it could go. But it
This
seems good.
absolutely slaps in medium brown. Like, how are we not just jumping all over this? This is just another ram roller. It's another.
That's what I was thinking. If you think of it in terms of another ram roller, this is another
I was
ram
actually
roller that
thinking
doesn't
about
have to attack
whether-
each turn. Sorry.
Whether or not to add this, and I was comparing it to Ramler. I'm like, oh yeah, this is better.
No, this card is
right.
gas.
Like, we played Cathodian. I think we can afford to play Shambling
Who's
Suit.
this we, Kimosabe?
Me, my alt accounts literally does.
Premier mono brown cowboy.
No,
Premier-
that's me. How dare you? Don't. You can fight me for lands, but not
Premier Workshop Pilot.
Oh, I will end you. And finally, the greatest card that's also not going to be replacing Hovermere,
Don't lie to-
Stone Coil
Why are
Serpent.
you
I'm
lying
stealing
to
this
the
one from
people?
you.
X mana gets you a 0/0 snake, has reach, trample, protection from multicolored, and enters the battlefield with X+1/+1 counters. Alex.
It's awesome! This is great in the counters deck. This is great in workshop sort of aggro decks. Like, it's so many keywords, and it just keeps getting better.
Pro multicolor is like so funny because everybody switched from Rex Age to Night of Autumn, and you can't Night of Autumn this. And you have to cut Hovermere for this. If you're not cutting it for Gingerbrute, you have to cut it for this card. Don't just keep drinking that water, Serge. You have to cut this card. This card is absurd.
Ben, you are taking the bait.
No, there's no bait.
Yes, there is.
No, he's not doing this.
But it doesn't have flying or vigilance.
I swear.
Yeah, never. No, just don't. Don't engage.
If it has reach, is it an archer?
Yeah, I guess. No,
Wait,
it just goes.
Reach. Why does it have reach? Because it's so big, it just chomps the hovermere.
What if it, not as a 2/2? It's not.
What? So
All right.
hovermere's a 1/2.
There's been a lot of like X cost enters that big creatures before, and I think this, unless I'm wrong, is far and away the best one. At least for single X.
Yes.
This is not counting like double
Walking
X.
ballista
this ain't-
would like to have a word.
Yeah, no, that because that one's double X.
Yeah.
So
All right, and let's move on to lands now. And as the premier lands pilot in the format, boy, do I have some
I'll
things
take
to
that.
say about lands. First one, Castle Ardendale. This is the white land. I told you, premier land pronouncer is not me, just premier land pilot. Castle Ardenvale. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you control the planes. Tap and add a white, or for 2 white, and tap, create a 1/1 white human creature token. Alex.
So there's a card, what's it called?
Kaljoran Outpost?
Kaljoran Outpost that I always looked at, and then I looked at sideways, and I wanted to put it in a deck, and then I never did.
Why didn't you play that one?
Because you have to sacrifice.
Well, because you have to sack up planes when it comes into play. This one, you don't have to do that.
Noticeable.
It's like kind of,
So why
kind of a
didn't you
big
play
deal.
this land that made you sacrifice another land?
Well, it's worth talking about the downsides, right?
Yeah.
This card doesn't have a downside, really. Well, it's
Yeah,
minimal.
like it's slow, but it doesn't have a downside really. Would you play this in prison or like?
Oh, blue-white. Would you play this in blue-white?
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
What about Pox?
Probably.
Yeah. I imagine.
White Weenie? Yep. D&T? Yep.
Sure, why not?
The opportunity cost is so low. You
Yeah,
only
might
need
as well.
1 planes.
Yeah, you're fine. Just play it.
Green-white mid-range? Oh,
cares?
yeah. Get on in there.
You got planes? Yeah, just play it.
Any deck with Knight of the Reliquary?
Yeah, sure, why not? Just
So,
play it.
is this now basically an auto include, unless you're trying to keep your non-basic count down because of like Blue Moon in your format?
Yep.
More
Even
or
then,
less.
you're still probably playing.
I'm fairly certain this not to spoiler alert, but I'm fairly certain that's a recurring theme for this entire cycle, except for maybe one of them.
Yep.
Wow. All right. Next up, Castle Embereth. Did I nail it?
Yeah, you did.
All right, good. Got
Why
that.
does this card exist?
God, this card's good. So enters tapped unless you control a mountain. Tap to add a red. 1 red, and tap. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Let's open it up.
Oh, I know this one. Goblins.
Mono red.
Yeah.
Red deck wins.
every red deck.
Green
Tokens.
aggro.
Holy, like,
This one doesn't get into every deck because you don't really want it in the controlling
Sure.
red decks.
Right.
yes.
Like you're not playing it in Blue Moon.
yeah. Well, I mean, Peasy makes a lot of tokens.
But you don't.
Yeah, you don't play this in Blue Moon.
Alright.
If you turn a thing sideways repeatedly, play this.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right.
great.
Next up, we have Castle Garenbrig. This is the green one, so enters play tapped unless you control a forest. Tap to add green, or 2 green, tap. Add 6 green, but spend this mana only to cast creatures or activate abilities of creatures.
Ancient Tomb mana.
This one, I'm a little kind of, maybe not for everyone on, like, for the medium green, sure, why not? Yeah, Ancient Tomb mana. For Hoof, I pause only because it's super important to always have an untapped green source on turn 1 and ideally on turn 2. And there is a chance where you won't get this, and like the decks can Hoof has come a long way where like your 5-drops are actually good now and your 4-drops are actually good now. So like you might not need this necessarily because if you get to 6, or sorry, if you can get to 5, you can usually get to 6. And in the rare occasions where you get to 5 and you really need to get to 6, you have relevant things to now cast. But I'm probably wrong. You'll probably just still end up playing this. I don't.
A common curb and hoof is 1/3/5, and if you just had this instead, you could cast the Primeval Titan instead of whatever 5-drop you're gonna
Yeah,
cast.
Devotion Land.
Nykthos.
Nykthos.
Does Hoof still play that?
Oh,
Yeah, it's very good.
It's like maybe it's the scenarios where I would want to cut this from Hoof are also the scenarios where I'm asking myself, why am I playing Hoof in this metagame? But it's again, these lands are pretty damn free.
Yeah,
You
the
should probably
opportunity
just
cost
play
is
them.
so
Cool.
low.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have Castle Lochwain. This is the black one. Tap. Enters tapped unless you control the swamp. Tap to add a black mana. 1 black tap. Draw a card. Then lose life equal to number of cards in your hand. Alex.
So, if the number of cards in your hand is 1,
Not bad, eh?
it's pretty good.
Like in the right deck, you'll just like, yeah, I'll take 5.
I don't
Draw a
care.
card.
Yeah,
aggressive.
like
Yeah, like black mold against control, mono black aggro
Oh, you
in
know
any
what, like-
matchup.
This cycle makes me wish we could swear so much because just like, why are these so free?
Yeah.
They're just so free.
like
Very free.
I don't know if this is the right choice that I made for Black Mold, but I cut cards like Phyrexian Arena and what's the other one? The one that attaches to a lot
Underworld
Underworld Connections.
That's
Just because like they don't do stuff for a turn.
They don't punch your opponent.
Yeah, they don't kill your opponent. This, on the other hand,
It's free.
it's free. Also, you dump your hand and then you just you rip an extra card every turn for a life.
Great.
Seems pretty good.
Next up, we have Castle Vantress. This is the blue one. Requires an island. Taps for blue. 2 blue tap. Scry to Jer's Grinnin' Jer.
I can finally cut Soldevi Excavation from all my decks. It's so bad, but
Now, what's the expedition?
Soldevi Excavation, you sack an island when it enters, but it taps for 2.
It's the blue
It taps-
Kildjorn outpost.
Yeah, it
Okay.
taps for blue and a colorless, and you can scry 1. This is much better.
Yes.
Cut Soldevi Excavations for this card,
really
or
is
just
better.
or just add this in. It's really
right.
good, and it's free.
Yeah. Next, we have Fabled Passage, which is the fetch land. So put it into play. Doesn't do anything, but tap and sack it. Search your library for a basic land card. Put it onto battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. But if you control 4 or more lands, untap it. Jer.
I don't think this is going to be as ubiquitous as Prismatic Vista, but it's definitely going to see more play than Evolving Wilds. That's my pro
Right.
analysis.
And finally, the last card we're going to talk about today is Mystic Sanctuary.
Oh,
right.
how appropriate.
It's an island. Taps for blue, enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 3 or more other islands. And when it enters the battlefield untapped, you may put an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of your library. Alex?
What?
Jer?
It's an island.
Why are we? I mean, it's appropriate that we end on the best card. Of
This
the
card
set.
is
This card is
absolutely messed
so
up.
absurd.
You can fetch for it.
Yep. Nice Terminus. Oops. Again. Time Walk. Oops. Again.
Oh, you thought seized my high tide? Let me just fetch and get that back.
You can
It's-
gush and bring it back after.
It's you gush, you return it, you play this, get back the gush.
It's a common.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Pauper players are
Oh, it
salty
counts.
about that.
It's. Oh no, it doesn't
Other-
count.
other.
Okay,
So hold on a second. If
no,
I
it came into-
have gush and fast bond and a way to not die, can I go infinite?
I
Yep.
mean, you're also just having a scenario where you have fast bond, a way to not die in other cards. But yes.
you
That
can.
happens a lot, but you can't always win from there.
Yeah.
As the Premier Lands pilot, I'm surprised you didn't see that line.
was-
No,
gonna
I
say-
did, but as the Premier Lands pilot, I found it too pedestrian to build.
So Venser the Sojourner plus this plus a Time Walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Or Maloku with this. This card might actually make Maloku a fine card again,
love Maloku.
which is all 3 of us are happy. The
now,
3
are you-
Maloku players in the format are just like, yeah.
I just like, I guess Maloku and trade routes get them all in there.
Maloku, yeah.
Yeah, great. This card's great. I'm really glad it exists.
So this is part of a cycle. I guess did nobody find any of the other ones to be playable?
Yeah. So have you seen the other cards in this cycle?
They're
like
really
the black
bad.
one, which I don't think we included.
No.
Which is Cottage.
It's like fine.
It puts a creature on top.
Yeah.
But like, look at the disparity. The white one puts a counter. The green one makes a food token. This one rebuys your Time Hawk Ancestral Recall Terminus, Tinker, like Doomsday, like, anything. God.
Well, but you get a
Stop.
1/1.
Oh, God.
With a relevant creature type.
Wow. Oh, dwarf?
Yeah. Oh no, I thought red was a creature type. My bad.
This is like the original cycle of 3 all over again. You're like healing salve or ancestral.
The blue one's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The black one's like
Fine.
medium, and the rest are just
Well,
like.
I mean, Lightning Bolt was a pretty good
Yeah.
magic card.
But compared to Dark Ritual.
Oh, and Recall? Yeah.
So we got this set review
Yeah,
down
we're-
in 2.
We're done. Which is very exciting. I hope you all really enjoyed watching this.
And those of you who didn't enjoy watching it, tell Wizards to stop printing so many cards so we can stop being a set
We
review
joke about being a
podcast.
set review podcast, and we'd love to record other episodes, which is why we tried to get this done in 2, so that we can come back with more episodes about the format.
Join us next week for Theros.
Yeah, as we deep dive back into previous sets for the people who want more set reviews. If you think we missed a card, definitely let us know down below in the comments. We're going to be playing more of this set, and we kind of love it. So Modern Horizons, we talked about 90 cards. Core 2020, we talked about 60. This set brought us in about the mid 70s. So definitely this is definitely a block or
This is a good
set.
Highlander
This is a good
set.
Highlander set.
Benjamin, what does the Scouter say about its playability rating?
I haven't actually done the calc, but I imagine it's pretty high. There's a lot. It's funny. There's a lot of cards in this that make existing archetypes absurd, or like have these like this card. Like what?
Yeah.
Like so there are
Mystic
cards that are in the
Sanctuary,
set
right?
that are just like, oh, okay, rich get richer. There's not a huge amount of like now a new archetype exists, but
Like, this was Christmas for the counters deck, and just like Black Mold.
There's so many-
Period.
yeah,
it's
there-
just like, oh,
Yeah, this is spicy.
I see.
this set is so good.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Want to remind you that North 100 is brought to you by you with the support over at the Patreon, over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching, and till then, cheers.
Bye.